Chats with Trae. Chats with Trae.
All righty. Welcome everybody to Chats with Trae. I am your host, Trae Holiday, and this is a great digital version of Chats with Trae. I'm really excited because right here next to me is one of the great business venture folks in our community that has been holding it down and really passing the knowledge along to the next generation. And so I'm elated to be able to share some space, even if it is digitally, with Miss Debrena Jackson Gandy. Thank you so much, Miss
Woo!
Debrena, for being here with me today.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you for having me. I am so excited.
Absolutely. I mean, one of the things I have heard about throughout COVID is you've been busy. I mean, it has not stopped what you have going on. And so I'm excited. I think it's a great time for the audience to really get to know who you are, even more in community. So we'll share some of your history. We'll go there. And then you have a great new workshop coming up. And so the folks will be able to hear about that. Let's get right into it here. There's so many things that fuel us in community when it comes to whatever we choose, when it comes to our paths. And, I want to know more about you. You've got a great, a huge empire to me, right? Of businesses that have just been successful. You really showcase that. Where is that grounding come from? Like, what are your beginnings?
Well, I am so fortunate to be a third generation entrepreneur coming down my father's family line side. And, in my family, three siblings, my mom has her own business, my dad has his own business. My brother, and my sister all have our own businesses. And so this generation, we have our own businesses all the way back to grandparents. So, and then when I look at my cousins on my dad's side, all of us, almost all of us have our own businesses. It's amazing. So I grew up immersed in the power of enterprise, talking about it at our dinner table as if it was no thing, talking about contracts and marketing and sales and negotiating, and how our American tax code, our US tax code, has a bias for those who own businesses. The advantages are greatest for those who own businesses, not for those who work for someone who owns a business. So that was par for the course. So even though, yes, I worked for a Fortune 50 company, and I also worked for my family business for several years, starting as an intern back in middle school. And then my last couple years with my family business years back was as a vice president. And so I have firsthand seen the power of having control over how much money you can make, who are your clients and customers, and translating your gifts, your talents, your skills, and abilities into ka-ching. So, and then from a community side, it's very clear from our history in these United States that when we have had surges in enterprise, in our ability to recycle the Black dollar, is when Black wealth surges, when Black economics get stronger. So there's a whole community and cultural side of this that is ultra exciting, especially now with the effect that COVID has had on so many traditional industries and lines of business that have now become obsolete or can't continue to function as they did. So I am all about enterprise and all about wealth generation.
Well, I think that's what I'm saying. I think that the beauty is that sometimes you don't know where that spark comes from in a person, right? And it really is so customizable for so many of us that whatever we saw as children, the things that they talk about when they talk about your peer influence, your circle of influence, right? And how small that is when you're younger, and it begins to widen a bit, but it doesn't get huge. It never really does. And the identity that you begin to shape really is so much shaped and formed by that. We talk a lot about community, and clearly you were just talking about your family business, a real legacy there. When it comes to building the relationships and your time being a VP, how has that been different than you being a part of your own industry, your own business, versus VP of the family chain and family legacy?
Right. Well, it was very interesting. My dad has always been a thought leader and on the cutting edge when it came to having his business reflect the latest, the greatest, the hottest trends. And years ago, we're talking now about 27 years ago, 27 to 30 years ago, when there was a company we called it Ma Bell. And AT&T was one huge conglomerate, ran the whole country when it came to getting your phone lines. And when AT&T was considered antitrust and broke up, it created all this opportunity for smaller companies to get in on the telecommunications game. So my dad's company was one of those companies. Well, I was working for AT&T after college down in Southern California, and I was kicking butt. I was one of the top salespeople nationally, selling millions of dollars worth of AT&T phone systems and fax machines. And when my dad's company started their telecommunications division, he approached me. He headhunted his own daughter. And he said, "You're down there making Mr. AT&T millions. How about you come back to this family business and help with this new telecommunications division?" So I went from, working at this facility in Pasadena where, 500 of us worked in the building. And I had an entire group of people who their job was to telemarket and cultivate leads for all of us account executives. I went from that and having a fleet of technicians installing phone systems to now in my family business, I was the telemarketing department. I was the marketing department. I was the tech support department because I had to put the orders together for our technicians to install phone systems. So what previously was delegated out to different departments, I had all that vertical responsibility. And so it was really a guerrilla marketing situation where literally my dad drives me up I-5 to Seattle. I grew up in Lacey, Washington. So Seattle was the big city. I didn't know how to navigate. I didn't live here. And he takes me to an executive office suite and says, "Make magic happen." And this is when we still had phone books. So I'm in this office with a desk and a phone, some phone books, real thick yellow pages, new to Seattle, and had to make it happen. So talk about going from all that support to now it's me and the phone and the desk and the phone books. And so that really cultivated some very specific muscles in me, because I was able to really from nothing create something. And I don't know if you're familiar with Sleep Country USA, big mattress chain that got sold to Mattress USA, I think. But we were their first phone system. And I remember sitting in their little office in Andover Park West and them buying a phone system from me and then watching all these commercials on TV. And later on, Sonny Kobe Cook sold it for multiple millions. But, those kinds of stories, where our phone system was in there and I was the one who sold it. Wow. So, but I still was working for someone else. There was space between me and the customer called my dad's company. So when I started my own business, it's a wholly different journey when you get to have the buffer of AT&T or my family's business between me and the ka-ching. But when that's now removed and it's you, your gifts, your talents, your ability to communicate, and you are doing a direct offer of a product or a service with no buffer, it works a wholly different set of muscles and takes a completely different mindset because you get to see really where your confidence is. Really, do you know your stuff? And it can really mess with your esteem as well because you can, I was kicking butt for AT&T. But now here I had my own business. that I started in 1995, where, you know, am I good enough? Do I have what it takes for people to, you know, send me a check? Or in those days, you still receive checks. It wasn't just send a payment link. So it's a totally different ball game. And I think that's where some of that imposter syndrome can come from when you start your own business sometimes, is like, I thought I knew my stuff, but do I know it enough for people to actually exchange money for me to make a living? So totally different ball game. So yeah.
Yeah. Really on your own laurels. I mean, that's what you're talking about. And that I'm sure took that leap of faith for you, you know, right? Where people are like, look, this is about, you know, now you've got all these skills, right? Honed them in, you know, out there in the world, honed them in right here with the fam. And now taking that out to the next level. You know, that's really what it's about. And when you talk about, I love what you were just talking about here in terms of really finding ways to utilize your gifts and then realizing, you know what, yeah, I'm worth it. You know, this is something that people will pay for. How did that moment really strike you in your business?
Well, you know, when I always knew that I was going to work for someone else for a certain period of time, and I knew I would probably work for my family business as well. And so I really used working for someone else and working for my family business as a training ground for myself. So those same principles that I used to sell millions of dollars of phone systems and fax machines and be one of the top in the country as a newbie, fresh out of college, I knew it would translate. And so I'm big on consultative selling, and that means that you have to educate people. You have to learn how to overcome objections. You have to learn how to listen really, really well and ask really great questions to uncover the less obvious, or to get to the real need, or what the crux of the decision is going to kind of balance on. And I refined those things when I was in big corporate America, and then really refined it when I was in, you know, my family business. So a lot of that stuff was transferable. And then I had mentorship. When I was with AT&T, you know, all of us came into AT&T as new recruits straight out of college, and we're working for a Fortune 50 company, and everyone wants to do a great job. And everybody went to the same 9 days of training. Well, I asked a few more questions. I said, well, who consistently is the top producer? And everybody kept saying this one gentleman's name. And I said, well, what's his secret? And nobody knew. And so while everyone else was kind of in the office half the day, this guy would always be out of the office and walk back in with an armful of signed phone system contracts. So I sidled up to him one day, and I said, you know, I understand that you are really exceptional at what you do. Would you please allow me to sit a few feet from your desk, but in earshot of your phone conversation? I'm not going to ask questions. I just want to observe and watch. Will you allow me to do that? And he looked so perplexed, like, okay, whatever. And he also was bilingual. So even though most of his conversation was in Spanish, because he was speaking to a lot of Spanish AT&T customers on the other end, I could still get a sense of what kind of dialogue was going on. And at the end of an hour of sitting there, I asked him a few questions. Well, what did you say? And it was the way he positioned the phone system sale. And I positioned my phone systems the same way that this gentleman did. So the success practice was transferable. I got myself a mentor for that 1 hour. And before I started my business, I asked around Seattle, I'm new to the city, who are the top Black management and organizational development trainers and consultants? The same names kept coming up. I called them up. Hello, could I take you to lunch? Hello, could I take you out for coffee? And the same way I sat at that super salesman's elbow at AT&T, I sat across from them at that coffee table or that lunch table and asked questions and learned from their experiences And then when I started my business, I was already head and shoulders above others that were starting out brand new because I had the wisdom of these mentor sessions. And within 2 years, those same people that I had been interviewing, we were competing for the same projects, and I was beating them out. I never thought the new kid in town would be beating them out, but it was because of the mentorship from those sessions and those questions. So a lot of stuff is transferable that I will never ever forego. You know, mentorship accelerates you faster and further, unequivocally. And that's why I believe in mentorship. I have 16 mentees. So so I just put those same things to practice that I helped generate millions with AT&T when it came to my business, because the process of effective selling and having a high close rate, the principles don't change from industry to industry.
Wow. I mean, that's really what it's about. So much of it is, I think, identifying that key metric. And it just sounds like you did it. I mean, exactly what you said, going into the mentors, you knew that you had your own skill set, right? That was honed. And then you just continue to hone in on that. That's what it sounds like. And I think sometimes it really follows the message that we hear so much in terms of, when you're talking maybe intergenerationally or, in trying to inspire the next generation or whatever. It's like, follow that thing inside of you and following that dream. And I just want to ask you before we go to break here, for you, what was it that made you say, you know what, I'm going to continue to follow this dream? You said those 2 years you began to bid on the same contracts and you were winning them out. As you began to explore how else you can utilize your skill set, like you just said, mentees, 16 of them, clearly you are continuing in on this practice, but that inner drive for yourself in terms of continuing in and then exploring it the way that you have, and more that we'll learn in the next segment, the ways that you began to explore this gift of yours.
Yeah.
Let us know a little bit more about that.
Well, I think one of the things that can happen when we start a business is we can become a little kind of locked on and fixed. Instead of kind of keeping our finger to the wind with our particular group of customers or clients and being sure we're moving with them. They move, we move. They move, we move. And if you're out of touch with how your client or customer is moving, you can miss it and, be balling for a decade and then all of a sudden, hello, and fall flat on your face. And so I continue to up-level, refine, expand my skills, and I continue to uncover and discover my gifts and talents. So it wasn't just a one and done, it was an ongoing thing. And so that has allowed me to stay relevant, that has allowed my business to keep growing, and I've continued to stay connected and in touch with my best fit client, as I call it, BFC, and provide her with what she is wanting and she is needing. And so I think being static or fixed can be the death of a business. You've got to stay nimble and you've got to be sure you stay in touch with what your best fit customer or best fit client is wanting and needing. And I think I've been able to do a pretty decent job with that.
Oh, beautiful. I really quickly too, because what you just said, it really takes me to where we are today, and last question here before break, COVID. I mean, you're talking about flexibility. You're talking about durability. You're talking about being willing to have that finger against the wind and move along with the trends and move along with the needs. Let's hear about your resiliency in terms of adjusting for COVID.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I made a decision, first of all, that this was going to be a season of thriving because, I read a lot and books talk about the Great Depression of the 1930s and how there was businesses that thrived in the Great Depression. And I always, hoped that if a crazy situation like that happened, that I would be one of those businesses that found a way to thrive, even while many businesses were experiencing hardship or closure. And so because I've transitioned my business, it just naturally happened with each national book that I've brought out. I've shifted more from organizational development and working with corporations and large companies to doing more work around personal growth and spiritual development. And so one of the exposures that happened during this season is it really revealed how our spiritual maturity and our spiritual root system was more shallow than we knew. And our maturity was not as mature as we thought. And our relationship with the Creator wasn't as strong as we thought, because fear took us over and anxiety took us over. And when churches were shut down and we didn't have a building to go to anymore, we had to return to, as the early Christians did. They were the church, they didn't go to church. Well, that muscle of being the church has not been cultivated in most of our churches and in our religion. So we were left kind of with the curtain pulled back going, well, that created an opportunity for my business, because I'm about personal growth and spiritual development. And so I had to shift, though, because I do a lot of live events. That's been a cornerstone of my business since '95. Well, here you couldn't go to hotels and have your retreats. You couldn't go rent out ballrooms and have your big events. And so I had to pivot. I had to shift. I had to adapt. I had to learn how to shift to a different medium, Zoom, and yet not lose my clients or revenue, because this is, part of our family's livelihood. So, so one person's, famine can be another person's feast. Yeah. And so I have attracted new blood, people that have known I've been doing my thing, but, kind of see it in the background, who said, wait, let me check this out. What is Debrena doing? She's still here 25 years later. What's this about? And so, so I guess, personal growth and spiritual development is timeless, but it's created a new momentum in my business and expansion and leveling up, because of people realizing how they weren't as spiritually resilient as they thought or talked about or purported. So, so it's been a blessing.
Definitely. I mean, I'm just really enjoying learning so much more about your personal journey. I mean, I think so much of my strength comes from really understanding and learning so much from those around me, especially with regards to Black women. And that's just really where it's at for me, where it's just like, you understand that strength. And I thank you so much for sharing a lot of that history. I'm excited to get into how things have been moving and what's going on in the future. You guys stay tuned. I'm into this discussion right now. And I feel like it's close, even though we're digital. I'm enjoying it. You guys stay tuned. We'll be right back with Miss Debrena Jackson Gandy. You're watching Chats with Trae.
We miss all our amazing clients and friends, especially around one of our favorite annual events, Halloween. We hope everyone stays safe and healthy and can't wait to see all those awesome costumes in person next year. But in the meanwhile, we created this fun and free virtual photo booth for all our friends to use as they dress up themselves and their kids. Snap, send, share. Simply log on to Smile Patrol Northwest, that's smilepatrolnw.com/Halloween 2020 from any mobile device and upload your selfie or a cool family photo you just took. And we're going to add this Halloween theme overlay that you can have sent to you via SMS or email. Stay safe, and we'll see you guys soon.
Hello.
Hello.
We are the Dennis's.
One more time. I thought you was gonna keep.
Which part you guys want to?
Who you want to do? Hi, we're the Dennis's. I'm Tinky.
And I am Kwadu.
And this is our love story.
My parents coming over here as refugees meant that they didn't really have anything when they came to America. Having reliable healthcare and having a reliable doctor was really important. Cộng đồng của tôi, trạm y tế của tôi.
我的社区，我的诊所。Mi comunidad, mi clínica.
بلشدة هي بقارها.
My community, my clinic.
We're right here at East Precinct. It doesn't get any closer than this right now. Converge Media produces culturally relevant content for Black and urban audiences. Our coverage is raw, transparent, and objective, praised by community leaders, government officials, and residents. As a small independent media company, we rely on the financial support of individuals and business members to stay on the front lines of the news that's important to you.
All right, welcome back to Chats with Trae. I'm your host, Trae Holiday, and again, so elated to be bringing on Miss Debrena Jackson Gandy. It's been great hearing so much about your history, your story, and really what fueled you to get to where you are today. And I love that we ended on how you shifted and changed and pivot with COVID. And so let's hear right now about this upcoming workshop series you have going on. I'm excited because as soon as Curtis hit me up and said, hey, she has another one coming, I was like, man, here we go. You know what I mean? I'm like, I got to get her on the show. So let us know what is actually going on. I know you have 2 dates coming up and they're jointly connected. So let us know about this new workshop.
Well, I am so delighted to have done a whole bunch of wonderful stuff for solopreneurs, micro-preneurs. There at Black Dot in Africatown, and through my Elevate Empowerment movement, Black Dot is actually one of our community partners. So one of my resolves this last year, especially this 2020 year, with the blessings that I have received, the growth in my business, the prosperity that has been occurring during this time, as I said, I've been focusing more on my personal growth, spiritual development, the vision of my company, and it's been very, very, very successful. But behind that personal development at personal growth and spiritual development company is a businesswoman that's running a successful business. And I haven't been as vocal and offered as much around my business acumen, as you said earlier, or my success practices. What do I do behind the scenes? How do you have a business that's generated multiple millions and have no employees and only use independent contractors? And your business is home-based and your business is international. Well, I haven't really had the microphone or the megaphone talking a lot about that. So this is an opportunity to come back together again with Africatown and Black Dot and talk about sales and marketing, which is the leading edge, the cutting edge, the foundation, and the bloodline of a business, and really bringing us back to the nuts and bolts, because when you go through an upheaval or overwhelm, it's easy to, in the name of just surviving, float away from and drift away from those timeless marketing principles that work no matter what industry you're in. And sometimes we never learned what they were in the first place. Sometimes we're bootlegging it, flying by the seat of our pants, gluing it all together and making it work. And so this is a time to say, okay, let's time out for 2 nights to work, not just in our business, but on our businesses. So no matter what level you're at in your business, the things I'm going to be covering are going to be difference making. So I'll be talking about some of the mistakes that so many entrepreneurs make that they often don't even know they're making. You're just doing what you do, that can keep our businesses plateaued. Businesses, when you own something, you want it to continue growing. If I work for someone, I might have the same salary for 2 years. But if you have a business, there's no cap on the kind of growth you can experience. But a lot of our businesses, our Black-owned businesses especially, plateau, and we don't know how to pop out of that. And so I'll be talking about some of those mistakes. And then I'm also going to be talking about an approach to marketing I call it hitting the bullseye. And the bullseye is the sweet spot in your business where your profit's greatest, the sales happen with ease. So I'll be talking about the 4 elements of hitting the bullseye, and also share some tools that I have used, you know, for over 20 years in my business. I'm low tech, high touch. So these are not tools where you need to go out and get the latest, greatest, you know, program and increase your overhead paying for some software. No. Low tech tools that I have used in my business, use them to this day, and used them in 1995 because they don't go out of style. So those, and also the chance for some Q&A, right? People have their scenarios and they want some help. They want to be able to ask specific questions. Here's what's going on with me. You know, what do you recommend? What do I need to do? What am I missing? What will make a difference? So in addition to some powerful teaching, there will also be the opportunity for folks to ask questions out of their real business scenarios. And hopefully me being able to give them some clear and direct answers that will help them profit even more greatly, even in the midst of COVID.
Wow. I mean, that's really what it's about. I think, you know, you said it. I mean, the bloodline really of successful business is really about folks knowing about your business, right? I mean, you know, you get down to the basics. And I know that in terms of so much of the movement, that's also what it's about too. It's about the messaging. You, in order for folks to know, you actually have to put it out there. You have to know what, you know, for folks to be a part of it. And so I really wanted to get into that a little bit because, you know, it's really a sign of the times we're in right now. So much happening and on a global level, a global scale. And it's only right to ask you a little bit about, in terms of business, and maybe even more so the importance of your mentees that you described earlier, right? And when we look at businesses closing right now, you just said it, even in the midst of this recession and what we're seeing in this pandemic, I really want to hear a little bit more about, you know, your efforts in terms of helping that next kind of generation. So maybe describing why you even have mentees, and well, I guess you did already because that was beautiful, but why, you know, you decided to have so many right now, and maybe how connected it may be to this movement in this time.
Yeah. Well, actually, I didn't choose them. They chose me. So if I was doing the choosing, I probably would have capped it at about 5, but my mentees don't seem to want to leave and stop having me be their mentor. So the number just keeps growing, where more women approach me and ask me, would I be their mentor? And I understand the power of the mentor-mentee relationship because I've had the same mentor since 1997, Dr. Maxine Mims. And she's that fierce that, you know, all these years later, she's still stretching my butt and causing me to step up and step out and step forward. And so I pass that on to my mentees, which is maybe why I have so many. And my 2 longest standing mentees are 10 years and 11 years respectively. And so I'm simply turning to engage with them the way my mentor has engaged with me. And as I mentioned earlier, it helps you move further, faster. And, you know, so often we talk about learning from our mistakes. Well, I don't believe in learning from our own mistakes. I'd rather learn from someone else's mistakes.
Yeah.
That's even better. And so that's been my, you know, I can observe and watch what didn't work, what did work, and go to that person, say, what did you learn? And I've now learned it. I don't have to go fall in the puddle, learn how to not fall in the puddle and say, I learned from that. No, I watched you fall in the hole. So that's what mentorship allows you to do, is learn from other people's mistakes, wisdom, insight, illuminations, reflections. And then you don't have to have the lived experience yourself in order to learn it, because we're not all that different from human to human. Mm-hmm. And then even, you know, doing this seminar is an example of really wanting to pass on, pass forward, share with others what works, and being able to talk to Black business owners, and they see themselves speaking back to themselves and can ask questions that if the person looked different than them, they may not ask. And giving scenarios that I know Black folks can relate to. All those kind of things make a difference when you are wanting to give back to other business owners. And then even the Elevate movement, where one of the pillars of that empowerment movement for the greater Seattle area is economics and enterprise, which work together. So those are just some of the ways that I give back. Not to mention the gratis work I do, contributing, free seminars once a quarter to certain community-based organizations and nonprofits, that kind of thing. But I feel if I've been blessed, that one, blessings keep flowing because you share them. And when you share, it's an experience of being more blessed. And it's just this beautiful self-feeding reciprocal circle. And then as you put energy out, it moves circularly anyway. So as I am more generous, as I share and extend what I've learned that can help somebody else, God has set life up to keep track of all that, and it circles right back to me in different forms. And so, so it is a pleasure and a joy and a delight and an honor to have something to pass on, drawing from the success that whatever success I've had. And that's how we lift as we climb more rapidly, is we don't just, I got mine and hey, good luck figuring it out. And, I'll just cheer for you. No, crack open the vault, pull the curtain back, bust out your calendar, share what's in your journal, share what's in your QuickBooks, and make it plain, because Black folks like to make it plain. Don't be talking 10,000 feet over their head. Break it down, make it plain, shoot straight.
Right.
And that's what I like,
Yeah.
So,
I think that too, what you're also speaking of right now is what I'm hearing so many in community talk about. You said it just now, seeing someone that's looking like them, maybe of similar lived experience, that can really speak to how they themselves can do it, right? I think that when we talk about a lot of self-help workshops or books or this kind of thing, a lot of it has been really generated by, a dominant, maybe colonial culture. And so to have, folks like yourselves and that are rooted in community too, because you just said it, you do work with Africatown, with Black Dot, you've been a part of doing, you just said this gratis, you're doing all this free services for, community organizations. That's really being a fabric of your community. So not only have you made it and you have, these amazing workshops, but you also give back in so many ways with your mentees and with your work in community. But I always think that it really is a reflection when we talk about this relational aspect that is so steeply rooted in how we build community. So I'm just elated because I have been able to be around you so much and be so inspired by you, by your work. You mentioned Dr. Maxine Mims, definitely, a mentor for so many of us, definitely my elder mentor. And she lets me know it every month. You know what I mean? And so, you gotta love that.
Yes, she will.
Yeah, she definitely will. I know we're gonna have to go here, and I just appreciate you giving me some time tonight. But I really, I want the folks to understand, if they join this workshop, and they're like, look, I need this. Yeah. What are some of the biggest things that, hey, I'm walking away with that?
Yeah. Well, it's a two-part masterclass because I knew I could not cram everything into one night. So it's Thursday, November 5th, Thursday, November 12th, 6 to 8 p.m. Pacific. And one of the things that Black Dot has done in asking to partner with me and offering this to the community is knocked a few zeros off of the price I would normally be charging. And so for a two-part masterclass, that's 4 hours, it is only $49 if you get the 2-for-1 price. So that's the first thing. Secondly is there is an approach to business success where it helps you hit that sweet spot. And it's a marketing inner game process that I'm going to be sharing. It has 4 parts to it. And what I have found is that when all four of those parts or all four of those elements are lined up like an arrow being shot straight and hitting the middle of a bullseye, that there's ka-ching, there's moolah, there's growth, there's increasing profit. And if any of those four elements are off, the arrow can start to go left and veer further and further off track, or to the right and further off track. And it can be very easy for that to happen, and you think you're shooting straight. So I'm going to be going over what those four elements are. I'm going to give some examples from my business, other businesses, big and small. A lot of times we think, oh, if you're a big business, you don't veer off. Oh, I got stories of how if these four elements are out of alignment, it can happen to large companies. And most importantly, I'm going to be answering questions that people have about these four elements in their own business. This is going to be an interactive workshop. And it's not about to put anyone on blast. It's like, hey, let's be real about where we are and our understanding is or isn't, and let's get your questions answered so you can get realigned and keep growing your business, or break out of the plateau, or come out of struggle. So those elements will clearly be lined out. Then I mentioned some tools that I'll be sharing. One is called a revenue plan. So I have a 12-month calendar in my business, and every month you can look to see what is Debrena doing in her business that's going to generate revenue. What are the specific activities? And we all should have that, where we have what those revenue generating activities are in the course of a month. Even if you're retail, okay, sell how many of these things, how many of these things, what's your goal for sales from these things and these things. And a lot of times we're holding stuff in our head, or we're flying by the seat of our pants, we're not writing anything down. So these are really simple tools that don't take technology, but they do need to be done, and they make a huge difference in your business success. So I'll be sharing some of those tools, sharing that hitting the bullseye, those four critical elements, and how to know if they're unaligned, how to line them up, because even price point is an aspect of alignment. And a lot of times people's price point is out of order, or they don't know who their best fit client is. That's the number one thing, the number one Achilles heel. Is people are way too vague and loose in their understanding of who their best fit client is, and their intimate understanding is way too vague in general, and they don't have an intimate understanding. So at any rate, those are some of the things we'll be doing, and when folks leave, they will be crystal clear about what needs to be tightened up, what is slightly out of alignment. They will have some tools and hopefully a revenue plan for at least through the end of the year, because I also believe in taking a few minutes inside a masterclass to actually do some of the work, not leave it all to be done away from the class. So it's going to be a workshop where there will be some business product that emerges out of those two sessions. Because I believe in high impact, and I also believe in sharing things that if people act on it, they can see the results begin to show very quickly. That's because I'm kind of impatient. So yeah, laser and lightning turnaround when it comes to putting these things into play. So all that and more.
Wow.
At the two-part Poised for Profit Masterclass.
Poised for Profit Masterclass.
Yes.
I'm so excited. Thank you so much again. My very last thing to you, is this open to folks that are just starting, folks that are already established? What is the range here so that the audience can understand, hey, is this for me?
Yeah. Well, you do need to have a business, even if it's a new one, but you do need to have a business. So it can't be, oh, I'm thinking about doing something in 2022. It needs to be much more crystallized and real than that. So you can be a new business, newly launching business, you can be established, because what can happen over time is, again, the drift can happen. So just because you've been in business, becoming comfortable can be one of the number one things that causes our business to plateau. So you can be a mature business, meaning you've already had your peak of revenue and now you're looking, how can we have another kind of golden age? or you can be relatively new, 1-2 years, or you might be launching, but you do need to have a business, because I'm be asking specific questions about your business, and we're going to be doing some specific roll up our sleeves work. So you can't just come with the concept and a future plan. You need to come with the business.
Right on. Well, Debrena Jackson Gandy, thank you so much. Poised for Success. This is a beautiful. I'm excited. I really am. If I had a business, I'd be there. So look, I would definitely be there. I need to learn these skills. Thank you again for joining me on Chats with Trae. You guys heard it here. Where can they find the link and make sure they register? That's it. I want to make sure they get on board.
Yes. Well, I think you're going to provide the link, because that was generated by Black Dot in Africa Town, since this is a collaboration. But it's also an Eventbrite. So if all else fails, they can go to Eventbrite and query, poised to profit. Excuse me, I said poised for profit, poised to profit, and look that up, November 5th and 12th. So
amazing.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Yes, this has been beautiful. I so appreciate your time. I know you're busy, so thank you again. You guys, what an amazing guest. You guys have been watching Chats with Trae, the digital version. We're bringing it to you the ways that we can every time, every week. You guys know this, and I appreciate you guys for watching. Thanks.